Jackson gave a nod as he stared straight ahead. He squeezed the mic button. Jackson to John Paul. Stepping off now. He received a double mic break in his helmet's earphones, acknowledging receipt. He glanced left and right, ensuring Jimmy and Melody were clear, lifted the glider by the control tubes, and angled the nose neutral to the breeze. Despite years of gliding, the rush at launch was always a heart-pumping event. There was no greater exhilaration, and there was nothing closer to natural flight, no source of power other than the wind and thermals. He bolted forward, balancing the 50 pounds of nylon and aluminum above his head. Within a few steps, the yellow and purple wings billowed as the glider took flight and lifted his 165 pounds of body weight with only a slight squeak from the nylon apex strap. Just over the cliff's edge, the uprush of air propelled the glider up another 300 feet almost instantly. Jackson glanced back to check his distance from the rock face. He saw Jimmy and Melody below, both standing back from the edge and facing skyward. Melody still had the cannon pointed at the glider. He faced front and dipped the nose to gain speed and distance away from the vertical wall and the turbulence of the updraft. He shifted his body to the right, which put the glider into a smooth turn to the southeast, away from the rim. With the turn completed, he shifted back and followed the crevice cut by the creek, now thousands of feet below. With over a mile in elevation drop from the rim to the Colorado, he had plenty of room for error as long as he stayed away from the rock faces. The goal was to get the best video footage possible to feed his multitude of subscribers, nearly 1 million at this point. The plan was to exit the crevice at the creek's mouth and fly directly across the gorge to the visitor center on the south rim. Crossing the 10-mile span was possible, given the rising heat thermals and currents. Tricky, but possible. From there, he would follow the safety boat upriver, capturing good footage of both sides of the gorge. If all went well, he would land on the bank at Quaggant Creek, 40 miles north of the North Rim Visitor Center, at the end of Route 67, his launch point. He expected to be in the air just over 2 hours. They had picked out several possible emergency landing sites along the way. There were a number of islands and banks with enough room to land a glider. If the wind didn't hold or he got tired, he could land the glider at any of those points, fold the wings, and jump aboard the safety boat. He could also ditch in the water if necessary. At least, that was the plan. A helicopter to haul them out at Quaggant Creek was also part of the plan. Every aspect of the entire endeavor was strictly prohibited and highly illegal. They would all face high fines and probably jail time if caught. But that was part of what made this whole adventure worth the time, effort, and money. With so many people uploading to YouTube and TikTok, it was necessary to come up with better content, which generally meant more and more risks. This had been the routine for just over 3 years. Come up with an adventure, scout the location, plan the operation, perform the operation on video, add narration, edit, upload, and get paid. They had averaged 1 video each month or so since they started. And they had made Jackson Lee practically a household name and a highly paid influencer in the adventure sport community. There were 5 to the team, plus any additional people as needed for each operation. Jimmy handled logistics. John Thomas and Paul Edwards kept things safe. Melody Lewis pulled it all together with first-class shooting and editing. And Jackson was always the one in front of the camera. With his jet black hair, square jaw, and chiseled form, he looked the part. He was handsome and quick-witted with a dry sense of humor. That seemed to be the formula for sky-high success in this new age of real-life video. Often, Melody stepped in front of the camera as well. Her cute face, athletic body, and blonde hair didn't hurt. She was also the youngest of the group at 29. Jackson and Jimmy were the oldest at 34. On this particular adventure, the helicopter pilot was an extra. And given the risks, legal and physical, he didn't come cheap. Jackson rode the eddies and updrafts to the middle of the gorge, where he lost altitude directly over the river. For a time, the glider dropped well below the rims, but then began to climb with the thermals once back over land. It was possible to stay aloft